Hey everyone, I've got a different setup here for for the interview today. Welcome back to another live session here at the TLMI annual meeting 2022. Apologies for the last interview. I said, hey, drop comments and drop questions, and I couldn't actually see your comments and questions here. So I've got it ready now. My computer's right here. I've got my special guest, Ginny, who I'll bring on here in a second. And we're going to have a great conversation about label liner. I know, get really pumped up for label liners and label leaders of tomorrow. And just what are we doing here in the industry to encourage, people who are a little bit younger to get involved. So let me welcome here onto the stage Ginnie Gandy. Say hi to everyone, Ginny.
Hello, everyone.
You can say hi right over. Yeah, there you go, right over there. Perfect. So Ginny and I are actually sitting right across the table from one another, but this was all I could figure out was the multiple camera situation. So Ginny, why don't you do a quick introduction and tell the people who are watching who you are and what you do and what's your background? How'd you get into labels?
Great question. So I work for Channeled Resources Group, and we're a family business. So my grandfather started it, and my mom runs it, and I had absolutely zero negative interest in getting involved. So when I went to college out in California, I got a job in Dallas, was working there, then moved back to California, married my husband, and was working in HR for a tech company out there. And then COVID hit, and we were just decided to work remotely, sort of bounce around the country for the same tech company. And we landed at my mom's house for a couple months, where she slowly started whittling me down and talking about the family business. And lo and behold, didn't take much. And I joined almost 2 years ago now. So I started in customer service, and now I'm transitioned to sales, and I work on our release liner side of the business. So that's a little bit, that's my story.
That's awesome. I love it. I also work for Myers Printing, and we're a third generation family owned business. And there's just something really cool and special about a family run business that can transition down different generations. It's really complicated and tough, as I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's really beautiful when it happens, honestly. And what part of California are you in?
So we went to school in Malibu at Pepperdine, and then we were living in Palo Alto.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's I remember when I graduated from high school, I was like, I just want to go to Pepperdine, and but I played basketball, and I was like, I was never going to play at Pepperdine. And ended up going. I made a much better decision. I went to the Colorado State University.
Oh, cool! Yeah.
At the Harvard of the Rockies, as everyone
yep.
is well aware. Go Rams. But anyway, that's cool. And so you've been there now for 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've managed to jump into the world of sales.
I've jumped into it. So my first job out of college, I was actually in a sales position, but I was cold calling, like making 100 calls a day to HR executives who really did not want to talk to me. And then that scared me away from sales. So I got a job in HR, and now I'm back into sales. But sales in this industry is a lot nicer and kinder and easier. And I really love it. So it's been great just getting to know our customers and going to travel. My territory's in the Southeast, so I'm seeing states that I've never been in before and meeting great people. So it's been a really awesome experience.
That's great. And do you we didn't plan really many of these questions, but I'm super curious. So you were working for a tech company doing like business development, just cold call, like, connect to sell or something like that, where it's like all of a sudden someone's on the phone. You're like, hey. So what I've done a few like training sessions with some SaaS companies selling and helping train them to sell. And I'm really fascinated, like, how have you been able to maybe even transition some of that into this, where you're not going to be just making 100 cold calls, but have you been able to kind of lean on some of that experience?
Oh, absolutely.
What's one thing for somebody who's just getting into sales you'd be like, make sure that you remember to do this?
My biggest takeaway was the sales process. So the reason I joined the company that I did, it was called Gartner. They're a tech consulting firm.
The research company?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Do you know they have a packaging guy that works there?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, John Blake is at Gartner Research.
No idea.
Yeah, you should connect up with him. He's great.
Yeah, I will. So Gartner had acquired a company called CEB, and CEB had a product called, or just an HR consulting product. So that's what I was selling for. And the biggest thing that they honed in on us or taught us was the sales process. And, from finding your prospects to creating like an outreach schedule, and varying degrees of outreach. So you're calling people, you're emailing people, you're reaching out to them on LinkedIn, and they need very consistent outreach in order to actually get a response. So that was invaluable for me. So now I have, my targeted group of prospects, and I have an outreach schedule that I go off of. I send them an email, then I'll try to call them and reference the email that I sent them, so it's not quite as cold a phone call. Then if I don't get anything, I'll try to reach out to them on LinkedIn. Just finding whatever ways that they prefer to communicate, because everybody's different. So that's been a really helpful takeaway. It's been great.
Are you at all connected with her name's Beck Holland?
No.
On LinkedIn, you would have a best friend in Beck Holland. She's doing this thing called Flip the Script, and I think they're going to be in the Bay Area. It's Beck Holland and Keenan, and Beck is like the master of like sales cadence and that kind of stuff. So you should really,
I will.
You should check her out for sure. Well, that was a fun little
tangent,
fun little tangent that I really enjoyed. Let's talk about what everyone wants to talk about, which is release liner.
Yeah.
And we joke about it, but it's so important. I mean, I know when I was with WS Packaging, we had a few moments where it's like, hey, the label's not releasing from the liner, it's tearing the liner. And what most people don't realize, I had this guy Robert Champion on with Tim Drisdom, who's a new sales rep to Myers, and we talked about how when production gets all the way down to the very end, it's typically when the label is getting applied. So everything has already happened. So all of your money and your time has gone into, filling the bottle or filling whatever it was. And then you get to putting the liner on. And when that release liner is tearing, or if it's got like spots where the coating wasn't applied correctly, and so the adhesive is sticking to the liner, and so it's a mess. And then the whole freaking production line is shut down, while this little release liner that
thing you throw away,
that people laugh about, and it gets thrown away, and they're just like, really, is that important? It's like, well, you don't think it's important until it's super important.
Until it's not working.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't you talk about what you're doing at Channel Resources, and what makes you all awesome when it comes to that?
I love working release liner for a couple different reasons. One, it's used in so many different applications. So obviously label and packaging uses liner on almost every product. But a lot of our customers are in the tape markets, construction, airplanes. A lot of like airplanes are held together with adhesive and need liner for all of that processing, medical applications, all that. So just really fun to see all the liner applications in like my day-to-day life that I never thought about beforehand. But at Channel, so we have two different locations. One was our main production facilities in Wisconsin, and we have a facility in Markham, Ontario. So we got into release liner coating in Markham, Ontario when we had some narrow web coaters, so anything 40 inches and under. And there are smaller coaters. We don't do huge runs up there. Our minimum order quantity is 1,000 pounds. And that's where we really found our niche, in that there are a lot of smaller manufacturers who were looking for liner who couldn't really get into like the Loprexes and the bigger liner manufacturers, just because their buying power is so small. So we really found our niche there and started making some good money in liner. And then we invested in 2019 in a wide web coater in Wisconsin. So we have a 65-inch coater in Wisconsin. It's all thermal cured, solventless silicones. And we have another coater coming next summer. So we're really growing in our liner business. It's really exciting. But you're right. It's complicated. The sales cycle for liner is like over a year, because the testing and qualification process, all that takes so long. We have a blank label business as well. And, sometimes customers will call us up, say, hey, we need a box of blank labels. Ship it to us today. Or, they'll do some qualification, but it's a lot shorter of a sales cycle. For liner, you send them hand sheets, then you send a trial roll if all looks good, then you do a scale up order, and you just have to scale really carefully because there's so many different factors at play and so many things that can go wrong. So yeah, it's complicated, but in a really fun way.
That's awesome. What has been, it seems like there's been a lot of conversation when it comes to the liner. And for those of you who might be watching, please, you can drop a comment. We won't be mad, or drop a question here. And if you're not familiar with the label industry, maybe you're just in packaging, or you're you're a weirdo and you're watching this and you know nothing, you don't care about packaging at all. And if that's the case, hi mom, it's good to see you. So the liner, what happens, I wish I had like some rolls, but you've got the label that's going to get applied. So think about if you had like a sticker when you were a kid and you peel the sticker away, the stuff that you throw away, that's the liner. And then, you know, the sticker is the thing you stick on the deal. Just think about that, but like in large scale quantities oftentimes. So it seems like, Ginny, the liner world has really been moving into like the playing into the world of circularity when it comes to, I see more and more release liner recycling programs and things like that. Is that an area that you all are playing in pretty heavily, or you're trying to get into? Or it's
Somewhat.
complicated, right? Because you talk about silicone and you talk about paper, you talk about you know, PET or something like that. Like it's a tough world. Is that, I'm guessing, you know, everyone's kind of looking into it, but is that a place that you play in right now or no?
So where we got started as a company actually was in recycling. So my grandfather, Calvin Frost, is like major sustainability guy. The TLMI sustainability awards are named after him. It's like his baby.
I didn't know that.
The Calvin Frost sustainability awards, they call them the Frosties.
The Frosties, yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
Got it. I just thought it was like, because someone was like, they're at Wendy's or something, and they're just like, you know what we should do? We should name an award after this delicious treat.
It's after Calvin Frost himself.
Dipping the French fries in. No, it's after.
Yeah.
And that's your grandfather.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Well, look, we're learning new information.
Yes. So
not me.
You
already
yes,
knew that.
I knew. I did know. But yeah, so what his goal was, he saw everything going to the landfill and it like killed him. I mean, he just is such an environmentalist. So not only was he going out and finding there were, you know, offcuts of pressure sensitive material or stuff, if there was defects in any material or wrinkles in the rolls, which obviously you can't, you know, run through a machine if you have wrinkles or defects like that. We would take all of that stuff and cut out the bad stuff and resell it. We also would take liner, used liner. So we have a couple of customers now actually who we still sell used liner to. The challenge is in collection. And I think that that's what everybody's talking about right now is how do you collect it? So I know liner just got an ISRI spec. I don't know if you're
I don't know what that means. Tell me.
So if whoever is listening to this most likely knows more about that than I do.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Just trust me. You could be like, it's actually the skin from unicorns. Is what happens.
That would be a lot more interesting
Yeah.
if that were the case. So the challenge with recycling liner is that it's coated with silicone, which is really slippery because you don't want it to stick to things before you want it to. So recyclers are a little bit scared of adding liner to their recycling compositions because they don't know how it's going to react with all the other materials and if it's going to make their processing more difficult. So C-Lab and TLMI just worked really hard in getting an ISRI spec, which I think is you need an ISRI spec in order to be able to recycle material. And it's a specification that basically just, I actually don't really know.
It's okay. You know what? We should we'll Google it.
Yeah, everybody Google what an ISRI spec is because I don't know.
it's a spec that's needed to enable recycling. Yeah. Is that okay?
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
And so they just got that,
cool.
Which is really exciting because now you can actually move forward with collection of liner and we basically were stuck until we got that spec.
Yeah, no doubt. That makes a lot of sense. I will also I'll give a shout out. I don't know if you know this, but SpecRite's a sponsor of the podcast.
I had no idea.
So they make packaging specification.
Maybe they can help us.
Yeah. Someone from SpecRite. I'll be out there actually.
Please
Pack
help
Expo.
Help
Come
me.
by the SpecRite booth and we can talk about. Is it ISRI?
Yeah,
Okay.
ISRA.
specs. We're sitting here. Me and Ginny are just like, we don't know, but somebody out there.
I can throw
so.
out the name, and that's about all I
That's
can do.
totally fine. It was more than I could have done for sure. Well, that's really cool. And so what types of liners is it paper liners that you all are making?
We're making paper liner, yeah.
Strictly paper liners. Okay. And I've seen some paper liners now that people are saying can be curbside recyclable.
Yeah.
Is that something that you all have worked on or?
No, not directly. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different thoughts about what you can do with recycled liner because it's such a quality paper. I mean, you really need a fantastic sheet to have the hold out so that the silicone doesn't sink into it. You need the silicone to stay on top so it has that barrier to the adhesive. So it's a really, really high quality piece of paper. So a lot of people don't want it just to go in blue bin recycling because it's really expensive. So if we can find a way to bring it back into the manufacturing process and reuse the liner, that's ideal. But the problem is collection. So there are a lot of other voices that say, like, just get liner into your blue bin recycling, and so that's not going to the landfill. So there's sort of two schools of thoughts. I think it's wonderful that you can actually recycle liner now, and who knows, if you can collect it, great, but collection's really hard and really expensive. So
yeah, no doubt. Well, that's cool. And so let's talk about TLMI. You've been around the label industry clearly for a while, while not working directly in it until the last couple of years. But your grandfather is a pretty big deal. He has many leather-bound books.
Yes,
and his office
definitely
smells of rich mahogany. So here at the annual meeting, and even at Label Expo, I know there's been a big push to get younger people involved into the label industry. And there's is it the Label Leaders of Tomorrow? Is that
LLT?
LLT, which was I got to go to at Label Expo. I got to go to the mixer.
Great, yeah, the brewery event.
The brewery, yeah. So I went there, and it's fun for me because I have 5 children. I'm in my early 40s, and so to be considered a young person still makes me pretty excited. But when I go play basketball, I'm reminded that I have gout in my knees, and I'm very old. This is how I feel.
Sure.
But here at TLMI,
you are young.
You're the young. You're the young guy. You
are our future.
You know how to spell TikTok. You have the app on your phone.
Yeah.
But so what are you doing with LLT then, and how can we get more people involved in this great industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, my first TLMI event was at the committee meetings last year. So rather than TLMI has a bunch of different committees that meet throughout the year, but they meet in person deliberately to action plan for the next year after the annual meeting. And so last year, that was my first TLMI event. And I had talked to so many people who were like, "You're young. We're so glad to have you here." And that was like my calling card to everybody at the event, was that I looked young. And so I had a bunch of great conversations with people who were excited about the youth of the industry, and knew that the general population of TLMI attendees were a little bit older. And so we just sort of started talking about what we could do to get younger people more excited about packaging industry, because it's really not the sexiest. And so the Label Leaders of Tomorrow was born. We've had some social events. We've had a happy hour at the converter meeting. We had a brewery event at the Label Expo. And now our plans are sort of threefold. The first is, just connection, getting people connected, making friends so that you actually want to come to events like this. And it's a lot less intimidating if you know people. The second is like learning and growth. So we don't want to just be like a social group. We want to actually provide value for younger folks in the industry who don't know what an ISRI spec is, for example, and to just teach a little bit of the basics that sometimes I think the general sessions at TLMI and just some of the things that we talk about as an industry are a little bit higher level. And I really want to focus on the basics so that we can sort of get a base understanding for all the newbies, or the people who might know their company really well, but not the industry as a whole. And then the third is just getting them more plugged in and networked throughout, not just, younger folks in the industry, but with more senior people who have a lot of knowledge to share, or getting their voices on the TLMI committees to share what younger people want out of an organization like this, so it doesn't sort of age out.
Yeah, no doubt. And the thing that I just want, it's a podcast and we're on social media and stuff like that live. So traditionally the people that I interact with online and through my podcast are younger. And so it's a great, avenue to be able to actually, this was an interesting, I'll finish that thought here in a second. But when I came here, I've never been to the annual meeting, and I've been in the label industry for, 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I'm going to see so many people that I know and recognize. And I don't recognize many people. Like, I just don't know many people. Probably 97% of the people here I've never met before. I don't know. And they don't know me. And it's a humbling thing to be totally. Like I have a pretty decent following on social media and stuff like that. But then also to realize wow, this industry is going to go through some type of a revolution. It has to, because labels are not going to go away. Just because
Right.
if people retire and stuff like that, like label
We still
demand
need
is
labels.
still going to
Yep.
be there, right?
Yep.
And we still need people to print them and mix ink and set up a folder glue or for folding card. Like there's
Yep.
all sorts of stuff that we need, these jobs that are going to need to be filled. But to like young people who are listening, or if you're watching, just as you're going through high school, as you're going through college, remember, like if you look right now, like the tech industry, like you were in, Ginny, it's going through a lot of layoffs. Like it's going through its own problems. It's not that we don't have our own kind of ups and downs, but they're not nearly as dramatic, right? Like it's not recession proof, but it's still a pretty solid business to be in the middle of a recession, because while certain things might go down, other things, like in a recession, like as much as it sucks to say, like alcohol and like tobacco, and chocolates and things like that, that business goes up. And if you're printing for a wide variety of places, or if you're making liner for a wide variety of places, you can level out these storms. So I think it's a great place. It's a tremendous industry for younger people to get involved in, because it's got longevity, and we need people. Like I should not be the young person.
No, totally.
I mean, I can be. I'm happy to be. I still got a 20+ year career left in the industry. I'm super stoked on that. But man, let's get some more people involved.
Yeah. And most of my friends have absolutely no idea what I do. They think that I work for Dunder Mifflin, and like that's their only window into manufacturing is like the office.
Right. When they call you, do you say Dunder Mifflin?
I don't
on your cell phone.
But whenever I talk about how like I'm going to an event like this, they're like, okay, have fun with Michael Scott. Like, and my grandfather is a little bit weirdly akin to Michael Scott, so it's not too far off actually. But yeah, I mean, so one of the questions you asked me was, just as I was preparing, is what am I most excited about in the label industry? And for me, it's for sure the people. So everyone I've met through LLT, Label Leaders of Tomorrow, has been not only really excited about the group, but also really smart and really passionate about this industry. And I think a lot of people joke that nobody leaves ever in this industry. And I think there's a reason for that, because it's amazing. And my experience now compared to my jobs previously is that like I have friends who I love seeing every time I come to TLMI events, and the people just like really, really, really stand out to me. And I think once you get inside of our industry, you realize that and you get it, but you don't see that from the outside. And so I think that's one of our goals, is to try to show like, why is it so awesome to work in manufacturing? Because like the benefits aren't as flashy as tech. The products we're making aren't nearly as exciting as like a software that's saving the world. But it's really satisfying to hold a product in your hands that your company's making. And the people that I'm working with just are incredibly smart. I'm so excited about the future of this industry. And I love that I have the chance to work with them and learn from them and grow with them. And I probably will never leave.
Yeah. So you would say that the industry is pretty sticky?
It's pretty sticky.
Wait. I think I have hang on. I've got like a soundboard here. I think, yeah, it's really sticky.
There it is. There it
is. I don't know why I have this soundboard that I can.
That was great.
It's a thing.
You could have used it a little earlier, but
I know. The timing was a little rough, but it's okay. Well, that's I think that's a great place to kind of wrap this up here. Yeah. So, Ginny, how do people get in touch with you if they've got questions about LLT, if they've got questions about TLMI?
Oh, absolutely.
If they've got questions about channeled resources, what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah. Well, just on that topic, we are always looking for more people to jump in on LLT, always looking for more people to join TLMI too. So you find me on LinkedIn, Ginnie Gandy. I'm pretty active on there, and that's where our LLT group sort of sits and where we post all of our updates. And my email is ggandy@channeledresources.com. So pretty easy.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Thanks so much,
I really
Adam.
appreciate it. And everyone, make sure that you check out what they got going on at TLMI with the Label Leaders of Tomorrow. Would be an honor to me if you would subscribe to my newsletter at packagingisawesome.com. and also subscribe to the People of Packaging podcast. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.